Welcome to Books, Kids, and Creations, a part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I'm your host, Tracy Bloom, and I feature people who inspire and uplift future generations with their work. And last week, I interviewed the other part of this wonderful book that's right here behind Wendy Perkins, and Janet was on here last week, your co-author for Guapa's Great Rescue. And today I have the privilege of having you on the show. Wendy Perkins, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for inviting me. I was absolutely stunned and so excited to do this, to talk about the book and books and kids and creation in general.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I can see it there behind you. You have, and I don't even know if that's all the books that you've put out because
No.
you've had, decades of writing experience, and your love for animals really shows through all of your work, especially the book that we just talked about last week with Janet. So how did you get started? I would assume that it was something animal related that got you into this creative flow.
I think they grew up together. They were twins. Um, I have my mother was an amazing person with words. So growing up, we played, just to give you a quick idea, we played Scrabble. I never realized you played Scrabble for points until I was an adult, like in my 20s, because we always just played Scrabble with my mom, and it was like, who could come up with the best word?
Yeah.
So there was a very rich environment, linguistic environment in my house. My mom, sometimes she would use words. We say, that's a Sunday word. You can't use it until Sunday. But so we grew up very verbal, and, my love of animals, I think I don't know. I think that's just an innate thing. So, but they really meshed together. The first thing I ever wrote was when I was in fourth grade, supposed to be getting dressed for school. And I wrote a poem about, oh, it was awful, but it wasn't. I mean, if you look at it now, it's never going to be in my chapbook of life or anything like that. But it was about a cat it was about a cat named Snow, Blackie, but I thought it was white as snow. It was just like, so there was this thing about animals and words and the magic in them. Um, and I just always loved animals and always loved words. And to this day, I love nature and plants and weeds and grasshoppers and, you
Well,
know.
I'm a big gardener as
Oh,
well.
good.
And I have, a bunch of garden boxes out back and the garden is my happy place. And so
Absolutely, mine too.
I was wondering about like your creative process because like do you ever find that you might be gardening and like an idea might come to you, or when do you come up with your ideas for your books?
I think just and I mentioned to you before we started that I've never listened to a podcast. I'm sorry. I don't think it's a generational thing. I think it's just my brain thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I know a lot of people listen to them while walking around, and I don't even listen to music when I'm taking a walk. I think the ideas come from everywhere. That one of the things I love about my garden is I guess it's the mindfulness or the mindlessness.
Yeah.
Whenever I was stressed about something, I'd come home from work and my husband would say, you know what, you need to go out and pull some weeds for a while. Because
Yeah.
it's very zen, and making sure you get the root is a very allegorical thing. I'm going to get to the root problem. So I mean, one day I was just thinking about this morning because I thought she's going to ask me this. It can be something as simple as one time I was weeding and I came across a roly-poly, a sow bug that was purple, and it wasn't black. And I thought, oh my gosh, maybe this is like the royal roly-poly. And while I was weeding, I was making up stories in my head, and I used to do that as a kid too. I had a room to myself. My sister shared a room, so I was always entertaining myself. And then the one that I thought of this morning, though, was I was taking my daughter for a walk when she was a baby, and I had her in the stroller, and we walked past the elementary school, and on the big open playground, somebody had left a ball, and there was a crow, and it was jumping up and flapping its wings and kicking the ball. And I thought, And he was trying to land on it. I thought, well, maybe he thinks it's a big seed. And so I actually wrote a rough draft of a story called The Big Seed, and this crow steals the kid's ball. And so I think they come from everywhere, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And most of your books, especially the ones that are, right there behind you for the most part, are nonfiction. So I know
Yeah.
you did a lot of time working with the San Diego Zoo, wonderful place. Um, why nonfiction? And do you kind of gravitate to nonfiction or do you enjoy the fictional part too?
Honestly, I also was a science writer at SeaWorld, and I had been a tour guide at SeaWorld. And so, there's this theme again. Um, I gravitated towards nonfiction because when I really got started, I mean, I have written a lot of fictional stories about animals too, and sent them out to publishers, and they would say, the language is lovely, and the story is great. It's not what we're looking for right now, but back in the early 90s was a time when there was a lot of kids nonfiction. I did most of these books behind me, actually all of them except for Janet's, were
Yeah.
done for educational publishers.
Yeah.
And they want nonfiction, and you write what you know. And I know animals, and I know how I love research. So I, get to research and that whole thing and learn. Um, I do like to write fiction. It's often a little harder for me because I have a science background. And so there's that fine line between anthropomorphizing and making the animals natural behaviors and instincts relatable to kids. But that's the beauty of the WAPO books. We've got Mabel the pig who just wants to snuggle. We've got Bootsy the hen who sleeps on Guapo's back, which I know because I had chickens for a while and they just love to sit on things. So I tended towards nonfiction because it was what I know, it was my strong suit, and but there's a lot of things put away that are fiction that may never see the light of day, and that's okay because they exist. They just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite that you've written? I was looking at some of them, and there's things about animals' noses and things about their
Oh,
ears.
that was such a fun series. It was a publisher that I had worked with, and they said, we wanted to a series on animal body parts. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's hard to say favorite because it was like they said, okay, we want to do one on animal bottoms. It's like, all right, now I have to think of, and they had a very specific, formula. There's the opening and this many spreads. And so there's a different animal. It's like, okay, how many animal bottoms are for something other than just sitting on,
Yeah,
or what's special about sitting on this bottom? I've thought about this a lot, and it's kind of like I can't. They're all my children. I have no
yeah.
favorite.
I
They're all.
know it's a tough question. I've been asked that before too, and
I
I'm like,
bet you have.
well, they all
Yeah.
have different qualities and different memories behind them. And when
Yeah.
you're writing
Yeah.
them, the things that that just come naturally while you're writing, and you go, oh, this was a cool moment for me to explore.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so
Well,
have you?
I did a series on cats,
Yeah.
different breeds of cats, and I'm highly allergic to cats, which is fine when you're writing, but and part of the formula was, okay, talk about them as kittens on this spread. And I was like, okay, well, one kitten is like another. But then I thought, you know what? Kittens have very different. So it was, those were my challenge children
Yeah.
because I really had to think more carefully about it, which was wonderful to think about cats in a different way. A
Yeah.
cat is
Oh,
not
yeah. So have you also written, I think you've done some writing for the San Diego Zoo.
Yes,
Um,
I was a
how,
staff writer for
yeah.
14 years.
How did you get into that? I was just curious about it. So that would be so much fun, I bet.
It was fun. And again, I used to make a joke when I worked there that I was going to get a tattoo. Every time I would be writing an article, I'd say, I'm going to get a tattoo of this. And we always joked about, Wendy, we were just talking about it the other night. You would have been like the tattooed lip wonder. Um, so just to go back really quick, I like to talk. And
Well, good, you're in the right place.
yeah, well, but that's the thing is that So I was a tour guide at SeaWorld, and then I became a behind the scenes tour and educator at the San Diego Zoo. And I was there's a slow season. I was teaching up their preschool program, and there's a slow season. And the person who wrote graphics at the time, the signs at the exhibits and things, said, "Oh, we have all these birds coming in. I just need like one, I need 25 words about each bird, and here's their scientific name and their range, and we'll pay you per piece." And I went, "Okay." So I spent a
Right.
lot of time in the library learning about that, and I learned so much about writing from her. Joan Piper, if you're listening. So she was so patient, because I love to write, but I wasn't trained, outside of school, elementary school and things. So that kind of started it. And the zoo at the time had they still, no, they don't. They had a children's newsletter, Koala Club, and uh, Georgianne Irvine, who at the time was running that. I wrote some stories. One of them was a fiction story, um, and so she really encouraged that too. I've been so blessed to have people who encouraged this.
Yes.
And then I just got into to writing graphics and things on a freelance basis and greeting card information on the back of greeting cards about the animals on the front and things like that. Just
Ah,
really, really strange things. And so then this job opened up at the zoo to write for the magazine, which at the time was called Zoo News, which it's legendary. I mean, since 1920, I think it's just been amazing. And I applied, and I honestly didn't think I was going to get it because there were people far more qualified, but I got the job. And um, it was wonderful. It was, I got to learn so much, and um, from interviewing keepers and who work with the animals day to day and see the little ins and outs and have, such interesting and special relationships with them. It's a very professional relationship, but there's that connection, and
yeah.
it was really cool. Yeah.
I went to a talk I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and so
Oh,
Ohio State University is right here. And so the other night I went to a talk where the CEO of Bath and Body Works was talking. And
oh,
one of the things she said is go for it. Go for the things that you don't even think you'll get. Go for the hard stuff. Try the hard stuff. And it just kind of rang true because, I think we all have these moments where we're like, I'm not qualified for this, or I'm sure someone else would be better at it. But
yeah.
then, but if you don't try for it, you never know. You just never know.
Yeah. I later found out that like 100 people had applied for the job. And I
Good
just,
for you.
it scared me. I started having imposter syndrome.
Gosh, that is
But
that's such a
but
compliment.
I was, again, the team was so wonderful. My managing editor is still one of my best friends, and and the associate editor, we get together. We go to the Del Mar Fair, the San Diego Fair every year. It's in
Yeah.
Del Mar.
I
Um,
love San Diego. I love it. About imposter syndrome, like, so you have so many published books. You're definitely, you know what you're doing. You have these wonderful educational stories. You've been published traditionally. I mean, so do you still have imposter syndrome from time to time, or are
yeah.
you like past?
Yeah,
You,
no, I always do.
yeah.
But that's just I have imposter syndrome about a lot of things in life. That's just self-doubt. It comes up. And it's just there. You just have to recognize that that's what it is. And, thoughts are not facts. And just
Yeah,
come on.
that's so helpful for any situation where
It
something comes
is.
and you're like, I recognize this. And
Right.
then you past it. And I think that can happen for even like emotions. And, if you have like anger or you have sadness and you're like, why am I feeling sad? And you recognize it, you notice it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I want to really talk about the fantastic book that you just,
Oh, I do too.
yes. So how did you two meet?
Well, Georgianne Irvine, who I mentioned, she used to run Koala Club newsletter. She was in PR at the zoo. And boy, I can't even, I'm going to get it wrong if I try to guess. It's over 40 years. She is an amazing woman, and she is currently, San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance has a publishing thing where they do some books. She's done a series of books that are amazing too. She's a really great person to talk to. And I think she and Janet knew each other, and Janet's got in touch with her and said, I have this really cool story. And I think it'd be great for kids, but I don't write to kids. And Georgianne, at the time I had retired, but Georgianne said, I know a kid writer. And she hooked us up, and the rest is bliss.
Yeah. And I mean, I love the book. I love the story and the artwork and everything is just so special and sweet and there's so many good lessons in there. How
Yeah.
long did it take you guys to kind of lay it all out and say this is it? This is what we're
The first one, Guapo's Giant Heart, um, or Guapo with the big heart. Trying to think, that took longer, because the second one went much faster because we knew how to work with each other. The first one, we found our way of working with each other.
Yeah.
And there's always that first date nervousness.
Yeah.
And so she had written down the story, his story, as a news story type, that nonfiction thing. And my job was to take it and find a way to tell it as a story happening, you know, maybe not telling all of it, when Lynn first found Guapo, there was a doubt as to the calves' life expectancy.
Yeah.
So, we don't need to go into that.
Right.
They were sad, lonely calves. We'll just start with that. Everybody can relate to that. Let's just get that over with, and now we'll go on.
Right. Yeah, he's sad, but it gets
So
better.
I wrote, it took a lot of weeding to really let
Yeah.
it marinate and think about, and then I wrote a draft and sent it to her, and she called and we talked, and she said, here's what I like, here's what could we do this. And so there was a lot of back and forth, and honestly, I'm terrible about time. I cannot remember how long. It probably took us a few months. The second one, she said, oh my gosh, I have a story, and how quickly do you think you can write this? And we had really been, because we had worked together so much on the first one, back and
Yeah.
forth, this one came together faster. And then we worked with the editor, of the publisher's editor. And there were some really good Zoom meetings where, the editor would suggest something or say, oh, I think we can take this out. And Jenna, I go, no, 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 that's how horses act. And we need to do, no, this is
Yeah.
why this is an animal thing. This isn't just a story thing, because, you want kids to understand that it takes animals a long time to warm up too. So
Yeah.
I love working with Janet.
She's fantastic, and it seems like you two are just, you're right in sync with each other.
Yeah.
And I like that your process with your editor, and that's so important where they listen to your feedback
Yeah.
because editors, they're there to streamline the story and make sure it's all punctual and correct and
Right.
uh,
Right.
that. But that's really such a cool experience because it's different for everybody handing over your baby and saying, okay, edit it, but that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
flexibility.
Letting somebody, everybody's tastes are different, and, there may be a reason why you put something in, and it's
Yeah.
your baby. And
Yeah.
they say, yeah, your baby doesn't need to be there. It's the hardest thing about, sending your babies off, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
So, what is on the horizon for you guys? Do you have some fun events planned for this fall?
Janet does so many events. I am kind of wrapped up in family.
Yeah.
I take care of my little grandniece and nephew. My grandnephew's 2.5 years old, and my grandniece is 7 months old. And I do childcare pretty much 4 or 5 days a week. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's a full-time job.
yeah, it was a lot easier 30 years ago when my girls were little.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I know Janet is everywhere, which is wonderful. And when she does come down to San Diego, a lot of times she'll let me know. And I love going out, and I love being around kids.
Yeah.
And I kind of forget the parents are there and kind of devolve
Right.
into a kid with some self-control, luckily.
Right.
Um, So I know Janet is everywhere. I saw she did a TV interview that was she posted to her Instagram, and I spoke to her and I said, I'm just so proud to be and honored to be associated with somebody who speaks so eloquently about, modeling empathy and kindness for kids. And the way she put it was just so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
good.
she is perfect for TV too. I mean, and
Oh, yeah,
I
no,
think
she's,
her past careers really
yeah,
lend well
served
to
her well.
it. Yeah, yeah. So you two
I have
are
a face for podcasts, for
you
radio.
two are perfect. Yeah, you guys are amazing together. And
We
I
are,
mean, I'm
yeah.
just so thrilled that I had the opportunity to speak with you guys and learn about your stories and how you came together and created these wonderful books for kids that teach such powerful lessons. Um,
I'm so happy and proud to just be a part of something, that's just it's a hard thing to communicate in
yeah,
a story. And I think, without coming off as preachy, that's
right.
the whole thing. There's I don't know if you've heard of the organization Society for Children Book Writers and Illustrators,
I have.
SCBWI.
Mhm.
And I would often, I haven't for years, but go to their conferences. And that's the one thing the editors would get up and say, it's good to teach these things, but you have to do it without being preachy. Kids don't, it don't have to have it, they need to be able to learn it through the experience of the story, not by somebody actually saying it. The old show don't tell. And
Right.
um, and I think that's one thing that Janet and I worked very hard on, especially with this recent book about clay, is Guapo doesn't have all the answers at first, but he thinks about it and he thinks, okay, well, what if I um how would I feel? What I used to work at an animal shelter. Can I say the name?
Sure.
Oh, I don't edit. It's
I mean,
Helen Woodward Animal Center, and I was the education manager there for a number of years. And um, we would do animal presentations for kids, and we'd have a rabbit
yeah.
or a ringneck dove, and kids always want to, you know. And so before we would bring the animal out, I would say, okay, I need a volunteer, and I'd say, now you just stand right there, and then I'd come right at their face, and they'd pull away,
That's
and I'd say, I'm big. I'm not a very tall person. I'm slightly bigger than you. Imagine how you would feel. And just to
right.
kind of give them that experience of, oh, that's what it feels like.
Like, oh, I don't like that.
Why
Yeah.
are you touching my face? And so you tell them, we've taught the bunnies that if you're touching them on their back, they're safe. And that's why we don't, so we
Oh,
just taught them you don't ever go at an animal's face.
right.
And
Right.
yeah.
My dog would agree.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of, yeah. Everybody always wants to stick their hand in a dog's face, and I
Right.
always just let the dog sniff, and then once they get their head by my knees, I reach and pat their back. It's just like, I'm not going for your face. That's your sensitive zone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I like that you have the whole give them space
it's very
lesson
important.
in there too, because not everyone likes to have people, surrounding them or, maybe they just want to be left alone for a little bit to get their bearings. So I like that lesson a lot too.
Yeah.
So I always ask everybody who comes on the show,
Okay.
um, what advice do you have for future generations? And this could be anybody. This could be kids who want to be writers like you or just in general.
Oh boy. Oh, I think just take the time to stop and look around you and and see people and things for what they are, not what you think they are. Just be. Give yourself a chance to just be nothing for a moment, even if that's what it takes. It's the gardening thing,
Yeah,
just go and be with the plants.
it's
Just
such
be.
a powerful thing to just be. Just
I think I also actually, it just popped into my head. Somebody sent me a postcard, I think 30 years ago. And somewhere in my pile of stuff, my boxes, I still have it.
yeah.
But it's a picture of a little child. There's a caterpillar on a screen door, and it's just a close up of the child's face looking at it. And And this is my wish for everybody. May you never lose the sense of wonder. And there's so much wonder. There's so much to see, so much awe and joy and wonder. You just have to be open to letting it be there.
That is great words of advice. And I think going into the week, I'm going to be thinking of that. It'll be my mantra going into.
Okay.
So
Don't lose your look for the awe.
I'm going to look for the awe. Yes.
Cool stuff.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about all that you're doing. And
Thank you.
yes, so thank you so much and keep on writing.
Thank you. I will. I think I'll go write something. Bye, Tracy. Nice talking with you.
You too.